Hello, I'm Tommy Farry, and I'll be debating why U.S. businesses should be responsible for taking action to combat climate change. The issue of climate change has been controversial for a while. However, recently, more people are becoming convinced that it is a real concern and threat to society due to the negative impacts we are already experiencing. Some of these negative impacts include more intense natural disasters, an increase in wildfires worldwide, specifically Australia and California, sea level rise, which is causing flooding in coastal towns and cities, and our glaciers that are so vital to helping keep our planet cool are melting at alarmingly fast rates, far beyond what scientists have predicted. Climate change is an issue that needs to be addressed in order for our planet's long-term survival and its ability to support us with resources and places to live as our population is still growing. Even at our current size, there have been predictions that we are depleting the planet's resources beyond a sustainable rate. This could have dramatic negative effects on the global population. We need to start taking action, and we need to start taking action now. Powerful and influential nations like the United States need to get on board and start leading the cause to combat climate change in order to start the global movement that we need to occur in order to ensure our sustainable future. The following effects of climate change are based off a 2 degrees Celsius rise in global temperature by 2100, a number that the International Panel on Climate Change says we would most likely exceed, and a rise of sea level of 0.5 meters by 2100, a conservative estimate according to the IPCC. Some effects are as follows. Climate change will be extremely expensive. By 2030, climate change associated costs are projected to cost the global economy $700 billion annually. I'll touch more on the cost analysis of climate change later on. Climate change will cause the displacement of many people. Estimates say that 200 million people will be displaced by 2050 globally. And if there is a 3 degrees Celsius rise in global temperature overall, more than 600 million people will have to find new homes just from sea level rise alone. One city that will get hit very hard is Miami. If sea level rises 0.5 meters by 2070, 4.8 million people in Miami will be at risk and need to find new places to live. Climate change will increase the frequency and intensity of droughts and floods globally, which will increase food shortages and water scarcity, and can cause an increase in intensity and frequency of wildfires. For example, in western United States, wildfires could burn 8 times more land by 2100. Also, long-term droughts in the southern U.S. will increase, affecting food supply, and global crop yields are already declining and will just continue to decline even more. This can result in 20 million more children globally going hungry by 2050, and also an additional 8% of global population experiencing water scarcity by 2100. As floods increase by 2050, there is estimated to be 4 times as many people who live in New York in flood areas. Also, extreme weather will increase. Hurricanes are estimated to become 11% more intense and 20% wetter by 2100. Glacier melt will continue to increase at faster rates, not only affecting sea level rise, but affecting future fresh water supply to those who rely on glacial melt for fresh water and drinking water. The supply will increase in the near future and decrease in the long term, causing future shortages. Also, 100% of coral reefs may be at risk of extinction by 2050. This will cause biodiversity to decrease as the reefs go away, and our oceans will become less healthy and capable of performing the functions it does to keep our planet alive. Our ocean health is vital to both humanity and our planet's survival. Looking at this issue from a utilitarian perspective can help justify that we need to take action to fight climate change. Based on all these harmful things that could occur to humanity if there isn't enough action taken to combat climate change, society needs to slow down climate change as much as possible and start taking action in order to maximize the overall net happiness of the global population. If we don't, all of the devastating effects of climate change will result in a net decrease in happiness. As life would change as we know it, we would lead a much less peaceful existence, more people would suffer, and our planet wouldn't be able to sustain us, which can ultimately result in mass wipeouts of human populations across the globe. Businesses, specifically U.S. businesses, should be among the global leaders for combating climate change for many reasons. In 2017, the U.S. was the second largest contributor to CO2 emissions globally, coming in at 14%. They were behind China, who was at 28%, and the next closest was India at 7%. Also, in 2016, the U.S. ranked third globally for emissions per capita, while China came in at 12th. Businesses are responsible for a majority of greenhouse gas emissions. According to the Carbon Majors report for 2017, 100 companies worldwide are responsible for 71% of global greenhouse gas emissions since 1988. In the U.S., in 2018, greenhouse gas emissions were analyzed by sector. The results were that transportation accounted for 28%, electricity for 27%, industry for 22%, commercial-residential for 12%, and agriculture for 10%. Business is relevant in all of these categories, not just industry. Therefore, the immense impact on climate change in the U.S. is almost unmeasurable for businesses. Because of businesses' power and size and major contributions to climate change, they have the ability to influence global change for the better, but they also have the ability to continue harming the environment and contributing to climate change like they have been doing for far too long. Based on these facts and the principles of justice, businesses, particularly businesses in places like the United States, should take action to fight climate change. It's only fair they are held responsible for helping combat climate change, since they have been a major player in causing it to occur and get out of hand in the first place. They should clean up their own mess. It is unfair to the Earth and its inhabitants, who face the harmful effects of climate change, that businesses contribute so much to the problem and don't do enough about it to decrease its presence on our planet. Based on the same facts previously stated about businesses' contribution to climate change and businesses' ability to influence and initiate a lot of positive change in terms of combating climate change, along with principles of virtue ethics, they should be responsible for taking action to fight the problem. A person or business with good character would realize that if they were a major source of causing climate change and have the ability to combat the issue and save the health of our planet and well-being of its people, as well as take responsibility for putting the planet's health at risk, will take action to help combat climate change. There are many people that would disagree with my arguments and would say that businesses should not be responsible for combating climate change. Here are many of their viewpoints. If U.S. businesses do their part to combat climate change, they will be at a disadvantage on the global market to businesses that don't attempt to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. Based on principles of justice, it would be unfair to the U.S. businesses to be responsible for taking action while other businesses in different countries are not responsible. Some believe that climate change is not an issue that needs to be addressed or poses a threat to humanity. So based on a utilitarian perspective, combating climate change is not something that needs to be done in order to maximize the net happiness of humanity. Some believe it is too expensive for businesses to make the changes needed to stop contributing to climate change. Some of these changes include paying money to offset their carbon footprints and switching to renewable energy as a source of energy. Based on common good principles, businesses shouldn't pay the money needed to stop contributing to climate change because damage to the community and economy and financial struggles would hurt the common good more than it helps. My response to the first counter-argument was previously discussed when I touched on the impact U.S. businesses have on climate change on a global scale and their large contribution, deeming them more responsible than most businesses in other countries to deal with the issue. My response to the second counter-argument was addressed when I discussed the devastating effects that could occur if we don't do anything about climate change, and the fact that climate change has been an issue that a significant majority of scientists believe is real and a threat to our planet. My response to the third counterargument goes hand in hand with why combating climate change now is good for the business world and all of its stakeholders, which I'll explain next. For businesses worldwide, particularly in the United States, paying the money to decrease their contribution to climate change now is far more affordable than paying for the consequences of not properly dealing with climate change later on. The costs of paying to deal with the effects of climate change later on include asset destruction, relocation, increased cost of resources, and many others. 215 of the world's largest companies predict they stand to lose $970 billion for climate change-related disruptions over the next 7 years. Opposed to this, some companies say they could end up making $2 trillion from adopting to climate change. Estimates say that with a 0.04 degrees Celsius rise in global temperature per year, global GDP could be cut by 7.2% by 2100. However, if countries cut greenhouse gas emissions in line with the Paris Climate Agreement from 2015, then effects could be limited to 1.1% loss in global GDP. The U.S. will be among those to suffer the most. If greenhouse gas emissions are not significantly cut in line with the Paris Accord, then the U.S. could see a 10.5% cut in GDP by 2100. So, not only will businesses taking responsibility and action to combat climate change help the planet and its people survive and thrive together, it will be better for businesses long term and help create a more promising, sustainable future in a world that we will be proud to pass on to succeeding generations.